The BRICS meeting, it's going to go down in history as one of the most significant changes in 500 years. This is a vote against the debt-based system of the West.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and this is the Miles Franklin Weekly Special for August 28th through September 4th, 2023, while supplies last. This week we feature your choice 1-ounce silver rounds at just $2.50 over spot. Choose between the Silver Buffalo or Silver Asahi rounds, both at $2.50 over spot, both 22 a tube, and both 500 to a box. The Silver Buffalo is made by various private mints across the U.S., with a design based on James Earl Fraser's iconic Buffalo nickel. These 3/9 fine rounds are highly recognizable and one of the most trusted types of bullion rounds available. Next, the Asahi Refinery continues the legacy of famed private mint Johnson Matthey, which they purchased in 2015 and refined with the same attention to detail, cementing their status as an LBMA-certified supplier. Their 1-ounce rounds are also 3/9 fine and also on sale for just $2.50 over spot. Additionally, the Asahi rounds are IRA eligible. If you'd like to learn more about a precious metals IRA, call us, and we'll be happy to help you in that process. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is one of our viewers' favorite guests, and for many of them, their favorite guest, Bob Moriarty, Marine, Naval Aviator, and financial author. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's certainly a good time to be chatting.
It definitely is. Now, last week, we saw not so much a surprise for many people that the BRICS nations are planning on expanding. They met last week in South Africa, and they're inviting 6 more nations, including Saudi Arabia and Iran, into that coalition. Your perspective on this and what kind of impact it's going to have on the Western world?
I would guess prior to the meeting, what most investors thought was important was them announcing a gold currency, and I really didn't believe that was going to happen. I think that was some kind of false flag that was thrown out in front of people. But the BRICS meeting, it's going to go down in history as one of the most significant changes in 500 years. When they have the 11 members, they're going to control 80% of the world's energy and a greater percentage of the world's economy than the G20. And what's amazing to me, and I'm just staggered that people don't see this, is the West is becoming less of a factor every single day. We are doing so many things that are stupid. In hindsight, the West is destroying itself. And the funny thing about BRICS is a reaction to the actions of the West, not action on their part. It's not China and Russia trying to destroy the dollar. This is the United States trying to destroy the dollar, and China and Russia and Saudi Arabia and South Africa and Brazil and Iran trying to protect themselves. And what's important is not the 5 initial members and not the 6 additional members, but the 30 people waiting in the wings. And eventually you're going to see Greece or Italy or France say, hey, we want to join too. This is a vote against the debt-based system of the West. And it's absolutely important to understand people are not going to see the results of this for years, but it is the most important thing that's happened in my lifetime.
Now, you mentioned how obviously the BRICS gold currency was not announced during this meeting, although there were a lot of rumors about it. I know Brazil's president did mention having a common currency. It's definitely something that it seems like the BRICS, there's mentions of it here and there. But even without that currency, it seems like this expansion of the BRICS will not mean good things for the U.S. dollar. Your perspective on efforts they're making right now to de-dollarize?
Well, the interesting thing is that, again, this is a reaction to the actions of the United States. The United States went out and said we could invade anybody we want for any reason what we wanted. We could steal from people anytime we want. We could put sanctions on people anytime we want. And the rest of the world has said we're not putting up with it. So this is not action on the part of BRICS to destroy the dollar. This is actions taken by the United States to destroy the dollar. And this is actions taken by BRICS to protect their economies and to protect their currency. So let's talk about Brazil and the common currency. Have you ever played poker?
Yes, I have.
Okay, how many people were at the table?
I've played it multiple times. One at a time, probably 5 people.
Okay. If you got 5 people at a poker table, and you want to order a pizza, and you add one more person, how long does it take you to decide what pizza to order?
Probably twice as long.
Twice as long, exactly right. And if you add a 7th person, it takes 4 times as long. Okay. If you've got 11 countries involved trying to set up a common currency, how many of those 11 countries have their own self-interest?
All of them.
All of them. Okay. It's not a question of Saudi Arabia doing what's good for China. It's a question of Saudi Arabia doing what's good for Saudi Arabia. And that's perfectly natural. And literally, the more people you add to BRICS, they've more than doubled. Okay, so the more people you add, the more difficult it would be to come up with a common currency. They're going to eventually figure out, hey, wait a minute, we're not smart enough to figure out something that will satisfy the kind of pizza that all of us want to eat. Okay, we need to come up with something different. And that's when they decide to go to a gold standard. Now, if, for example, Saudi Arabia decided to go to a gold standard, how would that affect any other country directly?
It would appear to me that, good money drives out bad money.
Well, that's true. But the fact of the matter is, if Saudi Arabia went to a gold currency, it's really a Saudi Arabian issue. You would have to decide whether you want to deal with them and how it affects you. However, countries can independently go to a gold standard. Now, believe it or not, Lebanon and Switzerland had a quasi-gold standard going on well into the 70s. Okay, their currencies were exchangeable in terms of gold. Switzerland could go back to gold tomorrow. The United States could go to gold tomorrow. China could go to gold tomorrow. Napoleon did it in 1796 because he realized that fiat currencies all fail. Now, when all the fiat currencies fail, and this includes Saudi Arabia and Russia and China and India and South Africa and Brazil, somebody's going to say, well, we need to come up with something that's worked in the past. And, of course, the only answer to that is gold. But if you go to a gold standard, what metal do you need the most of? Silver.
So, you need silver coins to make it more divisible. I guess then that means that the prospects for silver are even better than gold.
Yes. When the United States was on a gold standard, the ratio of silver to gold was 17-1. It's 84-1 right now, which means silver is cheap. People used to say that silver was going to go through the roof because it used to be 17-1. That's only going to happen when we go back to a gold standard. and it's going to happen under a gold standard because you need something you can buy a loaf of bread with. When I was a kid, of course, we had silver coins, and a loaf of bread was 29 cents, and a quart of milk was 29 cents. So you took 3 dimes to the store. I don't know what 3 dimes is worth now, but it's probably the same price for milk and bread today.
Yeah, it's about $6. So yeah, that sounds about right. It seems like there is a breakdown of confidence across the board. Definitely something that we've seen, and we have some viewers' questions on this, is a breakdown in confidence in the banking system. And you and I have definitely been tracking this as we've seen bank after bank fail. One viewer is wanting to know, what about brokerage accounts connected to a bank? How safe are they?
Okay. That's a really good question, and you actually have to go into the technicalities. In theory, the brokerage account is safe and it's insured, except in the case of using shares for margin. If you use shares for margin, you no longer own shares. You no longer control them. The brokerage house does. And in that situation, you could lose them. If you own the shares 100%, you are covered, and there should be no problem whatsoever. I believe, regardless of what happens to the bank, the brokerage firm is independent legally of the bank, even though it might be operated under Merrill Lynch or under Bank of America.
Now, still on the banking system, we do have another a question more actually related to a currency reset. What is the chance of the U.S. doing a currency reset? What is the likelihood of a debt jubilee on mortgages during a currency reset? I know we've talked about how a debt jubilee seems to be really the only way out of the current crisis that we see that we're in.
If you go back to the maps of the Atlantic in the 14th or 15th or 16th century, on the edge of the known world, there would be a sign saying, "Beware dragons, here lie." And the answer is, we don't know. Okay, lots of people can make projections. The $300 trillion is not going to be paid back. There isn't enough money in the world to pay it back. Therefore, there is going to be some kind of collapse. And I believe, and I'm on record with you as saying I think it's going to collapse soon. But we're not real sure the nature of it. I don't think the United States government is smart enough to do a currency reset. The United States government does not act to do anything. It only reacts in a crisis. And it's not smart enough to do a currency reset. If the United States had any sense, they would default on the government debt and go back to a gold currency. But it takes somebody like Napoleon, who has good sense and the courage of his convictions to do that. A debt jubilee, I don't know. What I would really like to see, I think the amount of money owed to the IMF by third world countries, I think it's $16 trillion. Now, I could absolutely be wrong in that, but the third world countries owe a lot of money to the IMF, and they can't pay the money back. And what I would like to see is a debtor jubilee of sorts, where they just tell the IMF to go pound sand. I think that's how it would start. There's so much debt that's not going to get paid that people are going to say, hey, screw this. They're going to use jingle mail. Okay, you want the house back? Here's the keys. Good luck with it.
It really does seem like there's no other solution, because, I mean, even if you just look at the U.S. debt, there's no way that the U.S. can pay off, the $30 trillion that it's in debt right now. And if you look at all the...
What did you just say? How much?
Well, that's what I was going to mention, is the unfunded liabilities is more like 200 trillion or 1 to 200 trillion. Yeah. So
okay. The amount of money we owe, it's 200 trillion. I think it's an economy of 15 trillion. So the answer is, gee, can you pay off 200 trillion in debt with a $15 trillion economy? And the answer is no. So Absolutely. The United States is going to default, and it's just a question of when and how. And frankly, we don't know. And lots of people believe they know. I'm not that smart.
On the same vein of kind of the theme of this reset that we're talking about here, a couple of viewers have questions on central bank digital currency. Fred wants to know about your thoughts on governments being hacked, and if there was a central bank digital currency, could that be hacked as well, and people wouldn't be able to pay for anything?
It's a computer program. If it's a computer program, it can be hacked. And would someone hack it? Of course they would. Okay, strange enough, I've been a Macintosh user going back literally to 1984, and the big difference between PCs and Apple products was PCs were really easy to hack. Every person who owns a PC has a virus program because every person who has a PC has been attacked by viruses, and 99.9% of Macintosh users would just shrug their head and say, "What are you talking about? We don't have viruses in the Macintosh world," and that's true. So PCs have been very popular. However, they're very dangerous at the same time. Central bank digital currencies are an accident waiting to happen. It's the government saying, okay, we want to take total control of your life. Now, there's another question that I was going to interject this into. Now, this is anecdotal, and I cannot verify that it's true or that it's common, but it's interesting. But someone sent me a video of a coin dealer whose bank had shut his accounts down because he was a coin dealer. And that could be a bass-ackwards way of the Treasury and the Federal Reserve of killing gold and silver, is to kill all the coin dealers. It would be very interesting if there's true. We are going to go into total chaos because if anybody watching this thinks the government knows what they're doing, the government is run by idiots. They are too lazy to work and they're too nervous to steal. And they screw every single thing up they do. The central bank digital currencies absolutely cannot work. Governments are trying to take over total control, and it's not going to work, and it's going to cause a lot of chaos in the interim.
And when it comes to this other question on central bank digital currency, how do you think it'll impact savings, stocks, and precious metals? You mentioned precious metals there, and I think that regardless of whether that story is true or not, I think it proves a point that because of the digital system we're already in right now, the government has so much control over that. I know Nigel Farage over in the UK, who was in charge of, bringing about Brexit. It's alleged that a lot of banks are blacklisting him now and his family. So it seems like there's this possibility, at least, that this can happen in the current system. But how do you think, in your perspective, how do you think it'll impact savings, stocks, and precious metals is the question.
Well, hang on a second. Nigel Farage was not an allegation. It was true. His bank shut down his accounts, and they actually fired the head of the bank. Here's the problem. The government is trying to make moral decisions, not even moral decisions. They're trying to make political decisions about things the government shouldn't be making political decisions about. Now, Nigel Farage was not throwing bombs, okay? He wasn't some kind of nutcase. You could disagree with him politically, but to go in and remove him from the financial system, that's really an amazing thing to do. When they try to do it, okay, and they're more successful across the board, people are literally going to be throwing firebombs at banks, okay? All revolutions are economic in nature, And if the banking system tries to shut you down by removing your access to the financial system, that's a great time to go out and get a quart bottle, fill it up with gasoline, throw some detergent in a rag, and go toss it at your bank and kind of vote on what you think about what they're doing. We're not very far away from either a civil war or a revolution. There are things in play that are exceptionally dangerous, and the whole central bank digital currencies is a giant mistake.
It definitely would introduce a lot more control into the system. We do have a few viewers' questions on precious metals and the control that government could have on those. The question is, do you see the possibility of gold confiscation or the limitation on purchasing metals?
On the limitation, absolutely. And that could be what they're doing with shutting down coin dealers. Okay, if they started doing it with big companies like you, then it would be time to man the barricades. But as far as government confiscation is concerned, in 1933, they could do it because they had some idea of who had the gold. They have no idea who has the gold now. So they couldn't possibly be successful in a confiscation. What they could do is make it illegal to buy or sell gold. And if they do that, it'll just go into the black market. I mean, governments are doing things that are exceptionally foolish, and it's going to boomerang. And there will be a reaction, okay? The central bank digital currencies can't affect precious metals as far as that. If they're in your hands or if they're in my hands, central bank digital currencies have nothing to do with it. But governments believe that having the power is the same thing as having the ability to affect something, and that's not rational or logical.
Now, still on precious metals, this viewer wants to know your preference in gold and silver. Do you think American Eagles are worth the higher premiums right now?
An ounce of silver is an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver. And the fact that they do a good job of marketing is not the same thing as changing the value of the coin. If you buy a silver eagle, you pay a premium for it. But if you go in most coin stores and try to sell it, you're not going to get that premium back. I prefer coins of all sorts that there is virtually no premium on.
Good point there. That's many people's perspective that silver is silver, and I think when it comes down to it, I think having some silver rather than not is really what's most important there. We have one viewer's question on the stock market. I know you've said that the beginning of the crash has started. This viewer wants to know, several have said that the crash has already begun. Using history as the template, you look at the crash from there was a crash from 29 to 32, so a 3-year time frame there, and this left the nation struggling until World War II. Will this crash be similar in time frame, 3 years, a race to the bottom, and a lost decade in rebuilding?
It depends on how much the government does in reaction. If a Napoleon came along and took control of the United States and said, we're going back to gold and silver, the Depression would last for 18 months. If the government tries to fix it, it'll last for 15 or 20 years. Now, while it's true that the market was hit high in 1929 and low in 1932, it hit another low in 1937. And there's some issue that nobody particularly agrees on. It took World War II to come out of it. And in terms of the stock market, from the high in early September of 1929, it took until 1954 to touch that level again. So a depression, it can be absolutely catastrophic, and it can last far longer than people realize. And we've been doing the wrong thing for so long We need somebody to come up and do the right thing.
Now we have one fun viewer's question for you here. It's about your dog, Fax. Why did you name him Fax?
That's the best question anybody's ever asked, because one of those things you have to say, that's kind of a goofy name. Oh, why did you do that? I named Fax because that was his name. It's been his name for 10 years. And when I was considering adopting him, I was hoping he would not have some weird French name that I couldn't pronounce or spell. And when the guy said his name is Fax, I said, "You mean like F-A-X? Fax?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Ooh, I like that." Okay, so he's named Fax because he's always been named Fax.
You mean you live in France and you don't speak French?
Well, the only French word I know is fax.
Fantastic. Well, Bob, thank you so much for your time today. Our viewers always appreciate you coming on. Let us know where they can find you if they're interested in learning more. And obviously, we'll put the Amazon author page in the description of this video as well.
You got to put those 2 links.
Oh, yeah, we have to put those in. So you sent me a little while back 2 videos of explaining why you picked a border collie as your dog and why everyone should own one. So we'll definitely put those in the description as well.
Yeah, so if they get bored by you and I chatting, they can go look at the Twitter and see why border collies are so much fun to have around.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we can let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Kaiser, my brother Elijah, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.